They were the perfect couple at church until an anonymous letter arrived. And when parts of that letter were read out loud in front of 300 people during our 25th anniversary celebration, our entire life unraveled in 60 seconds. My name is Vanessa Thompson, and this is the story of how a single envelope destroyed 25 years of marriage, exposed an 8-year-old secret, and taught me that sometimes God has to tear down what we've built on lies before He can give us something real. It happened on a Saturday evening in September at Bethel AME Church. We were celebrating our silver anniversary, 25 years of marriage, a quarter century of what everyone believed was a model Christian union. David and I were that couple. You know the one. The couple everyone looked up to. The couple young marrieds wanted to be like. The couple whose advice people sought. We led marriage enrichment classes. We counseled engaged couples. We spoke at conferences about building godly marriages. David was the minister of outreach, responsible for all our community programs and evangelism efforts. I was the director of women's ministries, overseeing everything from Bible studies to mentorship programs to our annual women's conference. We had 3 children. Danielle, 23, recently graduated from seminary and serving as a youth pastor. Marcus, 20, in his junior year studying business. And Destiny, 17, our baby, about to start her senior year of high school. We looked perfect, acted perfect. Everyone said we were blessed, anointed, an example of what marriage should be. But perfect is a dangerous word in the church, because it makes people forget that we're all human, all capable of failing, all in need of grace. That Saturday evening, the church had put together a beautiful celebration. The fellowship hall was decorated with silver and white, tables set elegantly, a slideshow of our 25 years playing on the wall, photos of our wedding, our babies, church events, mission trips, everything. Pastor Mitchell was emceeing the evening. There were about 300 people there, church members, family, friends, people whose weddings we'd mentored, couples whose marriages we'd helped save. The program was lovely. People sharing testimonies about how our marriage had impacted them. A couple we'd counseled 10 years ago, now celebrating 15 years themselves, talked about how we'd helped them through a rough patch. Another couple shared how our marriage enrichment class had taught them to communicate better, to pray together, to prioritize their relationship. David was sitting next to me at the head table, holding my hand, smiling, looking like the perfect husband. I remember feeling so grateful, so blessed, thinking about how faithful God had been to us. Pastor Mitchell stood up to introduce the next part of the program. Someone had prepared a special tribute, he said, a video montage with messages from people who couldn't be there. But first, he said, we have a letter that was delivered to the church office this afternoon. It's marked Anniversary Blessing for the Thompsons, to be read during celebration, so someone wanted to make sure their message was included tonight. He opened the envelope, pulled out what looked like a 2-page letter, started reading without examining it first, assuming it was another congratulatory message like the dozens we'd already received that evening. Dear Bethel AM Church family, Pastor Mitchell read, his voice warm and celebratory. I'm writing about the Thompsons tonight because I believe the truth must finally be told. The tone shift was subtle, but I heard it. Something in my stomach tightened. Pastor Mitchell's expression changed as he glanced ahead at the next line. He paused, looked up at us, then back at the letter. His face went pale, but he was standing at a microphone in front of 300 people. The letter was already partially read, and I think in that split second of confusion, he made the wrong choice. He kept reading, maybe thinking he could get through it quickly, maybe not fully processing what he was seeing, maybe just operating on autopilot. For 8 years, I've kept a secret that has weighed on my conscience. David Thompson has been living a lie. Gasps started rippling through the room. David's hand tensed in mine. Pastor Mitchell's voice faltered, but he continued, perhaps unable to stop the momentum he'd already started. 8 years ago, David had an affair with a woman named Keisha Johnson, who was a member of this church during a difficult divorce. The room exploded, people standing, shouting. Pastor Mitchell stopped reading and looked up, finally fully registering what he'd done. But it was too late. The words were out. The damage was done. The affair lasted approximately 6 months. Keisha became pregnant. She had his child, a son. That boy is now almost 8 years old. His name is Joshua. David has known about this child the entire time. He has been sending money to support him, but he never told his wife. He never told this church. He has continued in leadership, counseling others about faithfulness and integrity while hiding this enormous sin. I sat frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. The words were hitting me in waves. Affair, pregnant, baby, 8 years old. Joshua. I turned to look at David. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring straight ahead, his face completely white. Not denying, not explaining, just silent. That silence was confirmation. That silence told me everything. Pastor Mitchell had put the letter down, his hands shaking. I apologize. I should have read this privately first. I didn't realize, but no one was listening to him. The room was chaos. People crying, shouting, standing, staring at us. I stood up slowly. My body felt disconnected from my mind. I looked at David, at this man I'd been married to for 25 years. This man I'd built a life with, had children with, served God with. You have an 8-year-old son? My voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from someone else. He finally looked at me, and I saw it all in his face. The guilt, the shame, the fear. Vanessa, you have an 8-year-old son, and you never told me. I wanted to. I tried to. I didn't know how. For 8 years. My voice was getting louder now. Not screaming, just louder, clearer. For 8 years, you've been sending money to support a child I didn't know existed, while we were counseling other couples, while we were teaching marriage classes, while you were standing in this church talking about integrity. The room had gone mostly silent now. 300 people watching, waiting, witnessing the destruction of what they thought was a perfect marriage. David stood up, reached for my hand. Vanessa, please, not here. Let's go somewhere private and talk. I pulled my hand away. Private? You want privacy? You destroyed our marriage in front of this entire church by living a lie here. You built your deception here. And now the truth gets revealed here. There is no privacy anymore, David. Pastor Mitchell tried to intervene. Everyone, please. This is a deeply private family matter. I should never have read that letter. This is my fault. Let's give the family space to— No, Pastor, I interrupted, my voice surprisingly steady. This isn't just a private matter. David made it a public matter when he chose to live this lie while holding public leadership, while teaching publicly, while counseling publicly, while representing this church publicly as someone he wasn't. I turned to face the congregation, to the faces I'd known for years, to the couples we'd mentored, to the women I'd prayed with, to the church family I loved. I need you all to know something, I said, my voice breaking now. I didn't know. I had no idea. But that doesn't change the fact that we stood before you as an example when we were living a lie. I didn't know I was part of the deception, but I was. And I'm so sorry. Your trust was misplaced. The marriage you thought you were learning from didn't really exist. My daughter Destiny was suddenly beside me, tears streaming down her face. Mama, I looked at my baby girl, at all 3 of my children who were staring at their father with a mixture of shock, betrayal, and horror. They just found out they had a brother. An 8-year-old brother their father had hidden from them their entire lives. Come on, babies, I said quietly. Let's go home. Danielle and Marcus stood. The 4 of us walked toward the exit together, a family fracturing in real time. Behind us, I could hear David saying something, apologizing maybe, trying to explain. But I couldn't hear the words over the sound of my own heart breaking. We left him standing there, at the head table, surrounded by silver and white decorations meant to celebrate a marriage that had just died. The next few days were among the darkest of my life. My children were devastated in different ways. Danielle, who'd gone into ministry partly because she'd grown up watching us serve together, felt like her entire foundation had cracked. Everything she believed about godly marriage, about her father, about ministry, had been built on what she now knew was a lie. "How can I counsel teenagers about integrity," she asked me through tears, "when my own father has been lying for 8 years? How can I tell them to trust God when God let this happen to our family?" Marcus went quiet. Completely shut down. Wouldn't talk about it, wouldn't cry. Just retreated into himself, spending hours alone in his room. Destiny, my baby, cried for days. She'd worshipped her father, thought he hung the moon. And now she was trying to process that the man she'd trusted most in the world had a secret son. A brother she'd never met. A whole part of his life he'd kept hidden. "Does he even love us?" she asked me one night. "If he could hide a whole child, does he even really love us? Or are we just the family he was stuck with?" "He loves you," I told her, even though I wasn't sure of anything anymore. "This wasn't about you. This was about his choices, his sin, his fear. But it was never about you not being enough. I wanted to believe that, needed to believe that for my children's sake. But honestly, I didn't know what to believe anymore." My sister drove in from out of state the day after it happened. She held me while I fell apart, while I cried, while I screamed, while I sat in numb silence trying to process that my entire marriage had been built on a foundation of deception. David tried calling constantly, texting, coming by the house. I wouldn't see him, couldn't see him. Every time I thought about his face, I felt physically sick. The letter itself became its own source of trauma. Who sent it? How did they know such details? Why did they send it to be read publicly instead of privately? Part of me wanted to know who wrote it. Part of me was furious at them for destroying my life in front of 300 people. But another part of me knew they'd done me a favor. A terrible, painful, necessary favor, because David would never have told me. Never. He'd have taken this secret to his grave if he could. On Tuesday, Pastor Mitchell called, asked if he could come by, said the church leadership needed to talk about next steps. He came that evening with 2 deacons. They sat in my living room, all of them looking uncomfortable and heartbroken. "First, I want to apologize again," Pastor Mitchell said. "I should never have read that letter publicly. I should have reviewed it first. My failure to do that caused you and your children unnecessary pain and humiliation. It's not your fault, Pastor," I said quietly. "You thought it was a congratulatory message. You had no reason to think otherwise. Whoever sent that letter knew exactly what they were doing. They wanted it read publicly. And honestly, if you'd read it privately and told me in private, David would have convinced me to keep it quiet, to protect the family, to protect the ministry, and I'd probably have agreed. So maybe it needed to happen the way it did." Pastor Mitchell looked relieved and sad at the same time. "We've asked David to meet with us tomorrow. He'll be asked to step down from all leadership positions immediately. He cannot continue as minister of outreach, cannot counsel couples, cannot teach, cannot represent this church in any official capacity. I'm stepping down too," I said, "from women's ministries, from everything." "Sister Vanessa, you don't have to do that. You're not responsible for—" "I know I'm not responsible for what David did. But I can't lead right now. I can't stand in front of women and talk about faith and marriage when mine is destroyed. It wouldn't be honest. It wouldn't be right. I need time to heal, to figure out who I am apart from being David's wife or a ministry leader." The deacons nodded. One of them, Brother Williams, spoke up. "The church wants you to know that we stand with you. Whatever you need, counseling, financial support, practical help, we're here." "Thank you. That means more than you know. Let me pause here to recap what's happened, because I know this is overwhelming. My name is Vanessa Thompson. My husband David and I were celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary at our church. During the celebration, Pastor Mitchell began reading what he thought was a congratulatory message, but it was actually an anonymous letter revealing that David had an affair 8 years ago with a woman named Keisha. She got pregnant and had his son Joshua, who is now almost 8 years old. David has been sending money to support the child, but never told me, never told our 3 children, never told the church. I found out in front of 300 people. My children discovered they have a secret brother in the most traumatic way possible. And now I'm trying to figure out how to survive this while David has been removed from all church leadership. Let me tell you what happened next. The church divided in the aftermath. Some people believed David deserved immediate forgiveness and restoration. They argued that 8 years ago was a long time, that he'd clearly repented since he'd stayed in the marriage and provided for the child, that everyone makes mistakes, that we should extend grace. Others were furious, felt betrayed. They argued that David hadn't repented, he'd just hidden his sin, that sending money wasn't the same as coming clean, that he'd actively deceived the entire congregation for 8 years while holding positions of spiritual authority, that he'd counseled people about honesty while being fundamentally dishonest. The anonymous letter itself became a controversy. Who sent it? How did they know such details? Was it right to send it anonymously? Was it right to have it read publicly? Some people thought the letter writer was cruel, vindictive, trying to destroy David and our family. Others thought the letter writer was brave, willing to expose darkness even at personal risk. I didn't know who sent it, and in those early days, I didn't have the emotional energy to care. The weeks crawled by. Each day felt like a year. I went through the motions, got up, fed Destiny breakfast, made sure she got to school, tried to be present for my kids even though I felt completely hollow inside. About a month after the anniversary disaster, I received a message through a mutual friend. Keisha wanted to meet with me. She said she needed to explain, to apologize, to tell me her side of the story. My first instinct was absolute refusal. I didn't want to see the woman who'd slept with my husband, didn't want to face the person who'd been part of destroying my marriage. But then I talked to my counselor about it. A Christian therapist my sister had helped me find. You don't have to meet her, the counselor said. But sometimes hearing the whole truth can help you heal. Not because it makes anything okay, but because it gives you a complete picture instead of a partial one filled in with your imagination. I thought about that. Realized that my imagination was probably worse than the truth, that I was torturing myself with questions. What did she look like? What did David say to her? How did it start? How long did it last? Did he love her? So 6 weeks after the letter, I agreed to meet Keisha. I brought my sister with me for support. We met at a coffee shop in another part of town. Neutral territory. Keisha arrived alone. She was younger than me by about 10 years, attractive, looked tired and nervous. She had David's eyes on a small boy beside her, Joshua. She'd brought him. Our eyes met across the coffee shop, and I understood why. She wanted me to see him, to see that he was real, not just a concept or a secret, a real child. They sat down across from us. Joshua was shy, hiding partially behind his mother. "Thank you for meeting me," Keisha said quietly. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," I admitted. "But I need to understand. I need to know the whole truth." She nodded, took a breath, looked at Joshua and said gently, "Baby, why don't you go look at the books over there for a few minutes while Mommy talks to this nice lady?" He went reluctantly, glancing back at us every few seconds. Once he was out of earshot, Keisha started talking. Her voice was shaking. 8 years ago, I was going through a divorce. It was destroying me. I'd been married for 6 years, and my husband cheated repeatedly. I finally left, but I was broken, emotionally devastated, barely functioning. I listened, trying to feel sympathy, mostly just feeling numb. I was a member of Bethel. David was part of the team that did divorce recovery ministry. He counseled me, prayed with me, helped me process the pain and betrayal. He was kind, understanding, and I thought he genuinely cared. My stomach turned. He'd used ministry, used her vulnerability. It started slowly. Coffee meetings that went longer than they should have. Text messages that became more personal. He started telling me about problems in his marriage, how you were distant, How you focused on the kids and ministry, but not on him. How he felt invisible. I closed my eyes. The classic excuse. The lie men tell their mistresses, "My wife doesn't understand me. You're different. You see me." I believed him. I was lonely and vulnerable and desperate to feel valued. So when he kissed me one evening after a counseling session, I didn't stop him, and it became an affair. From February through early August, about 6.5 months. What happened in August? I found out I was pregnant, and everything changed. David panicked. He said he couldn't leave his family, his reputation, his ministry. He asked me not to tell anyone, offered to support the baby financially, but said he couldn't be involved. Asked me to leave town so no one would find out. So you left. I left. I was ashamed. I didn't want to destroy his family, especially after hearing how much he talked about his children. I thought if I disappeared, everyone could move on. So I moved about 2 hours away, had Joshua alone, raised him alone. David sent money every month, never missed a payment. But that was it, just money. No visits, no calls, no birthday cards, nothing. Does Joshua know about David? She looked over at her son, who was flipping through a picture book. He knows he has a father who sends money. He doesn't know his father's name or where he lives. I've told him his father isn't able to be in his life, but cares about him in his own way. That's generous of you. It wasn't for David. It was for Joshua. I didn't want him growing up feeling rejected or unwanted. Why did you come back? Why now? I didn't come back. I still live 2 hours away. But about 8 months ago, Joshua started asking more questions. He's getting older, more aware. He sees other kids with fathers and wants to know why he doesn't have one. I realized he deserves more than money. He deserves truth. A relationship if possible. So I contacted David, told him Joshua needed to meet him. What did he say? He said no. Said it was too dangerous to his reputation and family. Offered me more money. Promised to pay for Joshua's education, but refused to acknowledge him publicly or have any personal relationship with him. So you sent the letter. She shook her head firmly. No, I didn't send the letter. I swear to you, I did not send it. I studied her face, believed her. Then who did? I don't know for certain, but I told my mother about the situation, about David refusing to even meet Joshua. She was furious. Said he was using us. Said people at his church deserved to know what kind of man he really was. I begged her not to do anything. But she trailed off. You think your mother sent it? Maybe. She knows all the details. She knew about the anniversary because I'd mentioned it, but I haven't asked her directly. Part of me doesn't want to know. We sat in silence. Then I asked the question that had been haunting me. Did he love you? She looked surprised by the question. Thought about it. I don't think so. I think he liked how I made him feel, valued, needed, important. But love? No. If he'd loved me, he wouldn't have asked me to disappear. Did you love him? I thought I did at the time. But looking back, I think I was just desperate not to be alone. To feel chosen after my ex-husband had rejected me so completely. David wasn't love. He was a mistake. Joshua came back to the table, holding a picture book about animals. Mommy, can we get this book? Keisha smiled at him. Maybe, baby. Let me finish talking first. He climbed into her lap, and I saw it clearly then. The resemblance to David. The same eyes, the same smile, the same expressions. This child was undeniably a Thompson, and my children didn't know he existed. Had missed 8 years of having a brother because their father chose secrecy over truth. Can I ask you something? Keisha said. Why did you agree to meet me? Because you're not my enemy. David is. Not because I hate him, but because he's the one who broke vows, who lied, who chose deception. You were single, vulnerable. You didn't owe me anything. He did. She started crying. I'm still sorry. I should have known better. Should have resisted. Should have insisted he tell you before anything happened. I carry guilt for my part in this. Good, you should. Not to torture yourself, but to learn, to not be that person again. We all have to carry our choices. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Can I meet him? Joshua? I asked suddenly. She looked shocked. You want to? He's innocent in all this, and he's connected to my children whether anyone wants him to be or not. He's their brother. Maybe they'll never know him, but I want to at least meet him. To see him as a person, not just as evidence of betrayal. Keisha's face crumbled with relief and gratitude. Yes, of course. She called Joshua over, introduced me as a friend of hers. I didn't correct her. Now wasn't the time for the whole truth. We talked for about 20 minutes. He was bright, funny, sweet. He told me about school and his friends and how he wanted to be a veterinarian. And I thought about David missing this, choosing to miss this, choosing money over relationship, fear over courage, image over fatherhood. When I got home that afternoon, my children were waiting. They'd known where I was going. Did you see him? Danielle asked. Our brother? I did. His name is Joshua. He's almost 8. He's a wonderful little boy. What does he look like? Destiny asked quietly. He looks exactly like your father. Same eyes, same smile. Silence. Then Marcus spoke, his voice rough. Does he know about us? Not really. He knows his father has another family, but he doesn't know details. Keisha has protected him from feeling rejected. More than Dad protected us from the truth, Marcus said bitterly. We sat together in the living room, the 4 of us, a family trying to figure out how to incorporate the knowledge of a 5th person we'd never met, a brother, a son, a piece of our family that had been hidden. Do you want to meet him? I asked. They looked at each other. Finally, Danielle spoke. Eventually, not now, it's too much, but eventually yes, because you're right. He's innocent, and he's our brother. None of this is his fault. 2 days later, I called David, told him I wanted to meet, that we needed to talk. We met at a restaurant, public, neutral. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in weeks, had lost significant weight. His eyes were hollow. Thank you for agreeing to see me, he said, his voice hoarse. I didn't waste time. I met Keisha, and I met Joshua, all color drained from his already pale face. You what? I met your son, David, the one you've been pretending doesn't exist for 8 years. He's beautiful, smart, kind, looks exactly like you. Vanessa, don't try to explain or justify. I didn't come here for excuses. I came to tell you I'm filing for divorce. He looked like I'd physically struck him. Please don't. We can work through this. I'll do whatever you want. Counseling, accountability, anything. Just please don't leave. You already left David 8 years ago. You left this marriage the moment you chose to betray me. You left every single day you sent money to Joshua while lying to me about where it went. Every time you stood in front of that church teaching about integrity. Every time you touched me while hiding this massive secret. You left me alone in this marriage years ago while letting me think we were together. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did, over and over, for 8 years. Every lie was a new wound. And you know what the worst part is? It's not even the affair. Affairs happen. People make mistakes. The worst part is that you let me live a lie. You watched me counsel couples, teach classes, stand before the church as an example. All while knowing it was based on deception. That's not protection. That's cruelty. What about our children? What about our family? The children know everything. They've met Joshua. Well, I've met him and told them about him. They're devastated. Not because you made a mistake 8 years ago, but because you've been lying to them for their entire lives about who you really are. I didn't want them to be hurt. Then you should have told the truth 8 years ago. Faced the consequences. Done the hard work of restoration. But you chose the coward's way. You chose your image over integrity, your comfort over courage. He was crying now. What do you want from me? I want you to acknowledge Joshua publicly. Not because it benefits me, because it's right. That boy deserves to have a father who isn't ashamed of him. Your other children deserve to know their brother, and you need to stop hiding. The church will never forgive me. Maybe not. But that's not the point. The point is doing what's right regardless of consequences. That's what integrity actually looks like. We talked for another hour. He apologized repeatedly, begged me to reconsider, promised to change. But some betrayals are too deep. Some lies are too long. Some foundations are too cracked to rebuild. I filed for divorce the following week. David didn't contest it. The process took 10 months, which was relatively fast given the circumstances. He didn't fight for assets or custody time, just signed the papers and let go. I think part of him knew he deserved to lose everything, and part of him was too ashamed to fight. The church struggled deeply in the aftermath. About 60 families left within the first 3 months. Some followed David when he eventually joined another church across town. Others just left because they couldn't handle the scandal, couldn't reconcile the David they'd known with the David the letter revealed. But most of the congregation stayed. And slowly, painfully, we began to heal collectively. Pastor Mitchell brought in consultants to help the church process what had happened, to create better accountability structures for leaders, to talk about the difference between grace and enabling, to address how to support families in crisis. We implemented new policies. All leaders required to have accountability partners outside their families. Regular check-ins, financial transparency, not to be invasive, but to create a culture where hiding becomes harder and honesty becomes safer. David eventually did acknowledge Joshua. It was awkward and painful, but he started seeing him regularly, started trying to be a father, not just a bank account. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't enough to undo 8 years of absence, but it was something. My children gradually built a relationship with their younger brother. Danielle was the first to reach out, meeting him about 4 months after the revelation. Marcus took longer, almost a year. Destiny met him after about 8 months. It was strange and uncomfortable and sad. They'd missed so much. Joshua's first steps, first words, first day of school, all the milestones siblings normally share. But they tried. They showed up. They chose relationship over resentment. As for me, I took almost a year off from any kind of ministry leadership. Just attended service, prayed, tried to heal, tried to figure out who Vanessa was, apart from being David's wife or a ministry leader or someone with all the answers. I started seeing a Christian counselor weekly, worked through the betrayal, the anger, the grief, not just for the affair, but for the 8 years of lies, for the life I thought I had that never really existed. It was brutal. Some days I was angry enough to scream. Other days I was so sad I could barely get out of bed. And some days I felt nothing at all, just numb emptiness where my marriage used to be. But slowly, gradually, I began to find myself again. Or maybe find a new version of myself, stronger, wiser, more cautious about who I trusted, but also more compassionate. Because I'd learned that everyone carries secrets. Everyone has shame. Everyone needs grace, even when they don't deserve it. About 2 years after the letter was read, Pastor Mitchell approached me with an idea. He wanted to start a new ministry for women who'd been betrayed, who'd discovered their spouses were living double lives, who were trying to figure out how to move forward. You have a testimony now, he said, a story. And there are women in this church and in this city who need to hear it, who need to know they're not alone, that they can survive this. I was hesitant. The wounds were still raw, but I prayed about it and felt God saying yes. We called it Rebuilt Ministry, based on Nehemiah, based on how God takes broken walls and rebuilds them stronger than before. I started leading a weekly support group every Thursday evening. 5 women showed up the first week, then 8, then 12. Eventually, we had over 20 women regularly attending. They came with stories similar to mine. Husbands who'd cheated, who'd had secret addictions, secret families, secret lives. Women who'd thought they had solid marriages, only to discover they'd been living with strangers. We met in a circle, shared our stories, cried together, prayed together, studied scripture about betrayal and restoration. about Joseph and David and Tamar and all the biblical characters who'd been betrayed but found healing. It was sacred space, holy ground. We didn't judge each other, didn't rush each other's healing, just witnessed each other's pain and pointed each other toward hope. In helping them process their trauma, I processed my own. In pointing them toward God's faithfulness, I remembered His faithfulness to me. In watching them slowly rebuild their lives, I saw my own rebuilding happening. The anonymous letter had destroyed my marriage, but it had also saved my life, because it freed me from living a lie, forced me to face truth, no matter how painful, gave me a chance to rebuild on solid ground instead of continuing to build on sand. I never definitively learned who sent the letter. Keisha's mother never admitted to it. No one ever came forward. And eventually, I stopped trying to figure it out, because it didn't matter who sent it. What mattered was that the truth came out, that darkness was exposed, that God used an anonymous letter to accomplish what years of hiding had prevented: freedom. People sometimes ask if I regret how it happened, if I wish I'd found out privately, if I'm angry about the public humiliation. My answer is always the same. I regret that the betrayal happened at all. I regret the 8 years of lies. I regret the pain it caused my children and Joshua. But I don't regret how the truth was revealed, because if that letter had been delivered privately, David would have convinced me to keep it quiet, to protect our reputation, our ministry, the perfect couple image everyone believed, and I probably would have agreed, out of fear, out of shame, out of desire to avoid judgment. But God knew private knowledge would become its own prison, that I needed public revelation to be truly free, that the church needed to see our brokenness so they'd stop holding us up as perfect. We're not perfect, none of us. We're all broken, all carrying secrets, all desperately in need of grace. The difference is whether we hide in our brokenness or bring it into the light. David chose darkness for 8 years, and it cost him everything: his marriage, his ministry, his relationship with his children, his reputation. But when everything was finally exposed, when he had nothing left to hide, he had a choice: continue in shame or step into accountability and change. He chose accountability, started intensive counseling, joined a men's restoration group, began the slow, painful work of becoming the man he'd pretended to be instead of the man he'd actually been. It was too late to save our marriage. Some things can't be repaired. But it wasn't too late for his soul, for his relationship with God, for his future. And for me, that revelation was salvation. Because I'd been living in a prison I didn't know existed, trapped in a marriage that looked beautiful but was fundamentally broken, built on lies I couldn't see. God loved me too much to leave me there, so He used an anonymous letter, read at the worst possible moment, in the most public way possible, to set me free. Now, 3 years later, I'm not going to tell you everything is perfect, that I'm completely healed, that I never struggle. I do. Some days, I'm still angry about the wasted years, the lies, the humiliation, the fact that 300 people watched my marriage implode. But most days, I'm grateful. Grateful for the truth, grateful for the freedom, grateful that God loved me enough to expose what was hidden, even though the exposure nearly destroyed me, because the truth did set me free. But first, it cost me everything I thought I had. And it turns out, everything I thought I had was an illusion anyway. What's built on lies needs to be torn down, so that what's built on truth can take its place. I'm still rebuilding, still healing, still figuring out who I am apart from the roles I played for 25 years. But I'm doing it on solid ground now, on truth, on reality, on a foundation that won't crumble when tested. And that's worth more than any perfect couple image, more than any ministry position, more than any reputation. There's a verse that sustained me through the darkest days, Luke 8:17. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. I used to fear that verse, thought it was a warning, a threat. But now I see it as a promise, a protection. God will not let us live in lies forever. He loves us too much. He'll expose what's hidden, not to shame us, but to free us. If you're watching this and you're living in deception right now, whether you're the one hiding something or the one being deceived, hear me clearly. God sees, God knows, and God will reveal. You can choose to bring it into the light yourself with humility and courage. Or you can wait for God to expose it in His timing and His way. But either way, it will come out. Nothing stays hidden forever. Nothing. And when it does come out, you'll have a choice. To continue in darkness, defending and hiding, or to step into the light of accountability, truth, and genuine change. Choose the light. Always choose the light. It will cost you. Maybe everything. Your reputation, your comfort, your image, your marriage, your position. But it will give you something infinitely more valuable. Your integrity, your freedom, your soul, your peace. And in the end, that's all that matters. Not what people think, not what you lose, but who you become when everything false is stripped away. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you. If you've experienced betrayal, if you've had to choose between protecting a lie and standing in truth, if you've watched something you thought was solid crumble when the truth came out, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Have you ever discovered someone you trusted was living a double life? How did you find out? How did you heal? What did God teach you through it? And subscribe to Sister Circle Stories for more honest conversations about faith, betrayal, healing, and the courage it takes to stand for truth, even when truth destroys everything you thought you knew. God sees you in your pain. He knows your story, and He has not abandoned you in your darkest moment. He's right there with you, holding you, strengthening you, preparing you for the freedom that comes when lies are finally exposed and truth sets you free. Stay strong. Stay faithful. Remember that nothing hidden will stay hidden forever. And when God brings darkness into light, it's not to destroy you, it's to save you. Amen.